The necessity of failure. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your teacher, your training ground, your entrance fee for every level you want to reach in life. Most people run from failure, and that's why they stay small. But you're here because you're done running. You're ready to learn, to grow, to build real strength. In this audiobook, you will discover why failure is necessary, why it's the only way forward, and why avoiding it is the fastest way to stay stuck. By the end, you won't fear failure, you'll use it. Chapter 1. Stop running from failure. Most people spend their whole lives running. They run from judgment. They run from embarrassment. They run from mistakes. And the whole time, they believe they're protecting themselves. But they're not. They're building a cage around their own potential. Every day they avoid failure, they tighten the bars. Every time they hesitate, the cage shrinks. Avoiding failure is choosing weakness. You need to hear that again. Avoiding failure is choosing weakness. You may not like the sound of that, but it's the truth that will free you. Your life changes the moment you stop running and finally face the thing that scares you. That's the key. The people who grow are not the people who get everything right. The people who grow are the people who show up, even when they're afraid. The people who fail forward. The people who keep moving. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Think about how many chances you've lost because hesitation won. Think about how many goals you delayed because you told yourself, "I'm not ready yet." And think about how many dreams you buried under excuses because you feared looking foolish. This is what fear of failure does. It turns smart people into overthinkers. It turns capable people into spectators. It turns potential into regret. And every time you avoid taking action, you feed that fear. You teach your mind that hiding works. You teach your mind that standing still is safe. But standing still is not safe. Standing still is slow destruction. When you avoid failure, you never learn. You never grow. You stay exactly where you are, even when where you are is hurting you. You have a choice. Keep running, or turn around and face what you've been avoiding. Look at the people who are stuck. The ones who always talk about what they plan to do. The ones who have ideas but no action. The ones who wait for the right moment, the perfect timing, or someone's permission to begin. They live in hesitation. They stay in their heads. They replay imaginary disasters that never even happen. They convince themselves that avoiding danger keeps them safe. But here's the truth. The danger they fear is nothing compared to the pain of staying the same. Avoiding failure is choosing weakness. Avoiding failure is choosing a small life. Avoiding failure is choosing regret. Now look at the people who broke through. They didn't do it because they were fearless. They did it because they finally got tired of being trapped. They decided to stop running. They decided to face failure instead of hiding from it. They accepted that failure is part of the process, not the end of it. They learned early that the world rewards bold attempts, not perfect plans. Think about anyone you admire, an athlete, an entrepreneur, an artist, a leader. Every one of them has failed more times than the average person has even tried. That's the difference. They didn't run. They kept showing up. They kept taking shots. They kept learning, adjusting, and pushing forward. They understood a basic truth. Failing is not the problem. Refusing to try is the problem. You have a choice. You can stay trapped in the fear that has kept you quiet and stuck, or you can turn around and face the thing you've been avoiding. And yes, you will feel uncomfortable. Yes, you will doubt yourself. Yes, you will make mistakes. But that's how strength is built. You cannot sharpen your mind while sitting in comfort. You cannot grow without friction. You cannot rise without falling first. Let's get practical. What does running from failure look like in daily life? It looks like delaying the call you need to make. It looks like rewriting the same plan 10 times instead of executing once. It looks like consuming content instead of creating. It looks like telling yourself, "I'll start next week." It looks like spending more energy on worrying than on doing. And every time you repeat those behaviors, you weaken your own discipline. You teach yourself that fear decides your direction. But the moment you choose movement, even small movement, you take your power back. You show your mind who is in charge. You remind yourself that you don't need perfect conditions to begin. You don't need permission to begin. You need courage to begin. That's the key. Start with one decision. Just one. Stop running. Turn around. Face the thing you fear. It might be applying for something you're not sure you'll get. It might be launching an idea that could fail. It might be having a conversation you've been avoiding. It might be trying something new where you're not the expert. Whatever it is, choose to face it. Because once you face it, something surprising happens. The fear shrinks. The moment you confront it, you realize it was never as big as it felt. Most fears lose their power when you step toward them instead of away from them. You have a choice. And the choice to face fear is the choice to build strength. People who stay stuck believe failure is final. People who grow understand failure is feedback. Failure shows you what to fix. Failure shows you what to adjust. Failure shows you where you're not paying attention. Failure teaches faster than success ever will. That's why facing failure is not a punishment. It's a training ground. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to stop obeying it. You don't need to be flawless. You need to be disciplined. It's not about perfection. It's about movement. It's not about talent. It's about discipline. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about using failure. You have a choice. Run from failure and stay small, or walk toward it and grow strong. And here's the final truth of this chapter. The first step is always the same. Stop running. That is the beginning of every comeback. That is the start of every transformation. That is how you reclaim your life. When you stop running, you stop giving fear control. When you stop running, you see what you're truly capable of. When you stop running, you begin the real work, the work that builds confidence, discipline, and inner power. Avoiding failure is choosing weakness. Facing failure is choosing strength. And if you want a stronger life, you must choose strength. You've stopped running. Good. Now it's time to confront something deeper, the voice inside you that shapes your decisions, your habits, and your destiny. Chapter 2. Failure builds strength. Comfort builds fragility. Most people want an easier life. They want comfort. They want safety. They want a path with no resistance, no friction, no struggle. But here's the truth. Comfort does not make you stronger. Comfort makes you fragile. Comfort makes you soft. Comfort keeps you unprepared for the real world. And the world does not reward fragility. The world rewards strength. Strength does not come from avoiding difficulty. Strength comes from stepping into it. Strength comes from facing the things you don't want to face. Strength comes from choosing growth over comfort. That's the key. You have a choice every day. Stay comfortable and stay weak, or face challenge and grow strong. Let's make this simple. Failure builds strength. Comfort builds fragility. You can repeat that as many times as you need. Failure builds strength. Comfort builds fragility. If you want a life you can trust, a mind you can trust, you must embrace the experiences that stretch you. Think about the people who fall apart at the smallest inconvenience. A rude comment ruins their day. A small setback breaks them. A tiny challenge overwhelms them. Why? Because comfort trained them to stay soft. Comfort trained them to expect ease. Comfort trained them to believe that life should adapt to them, instead of them adapting to life. And when life pushes back, they collapse. Now look at people who stay steady. Look at the ones who handle pressure without losing control. They didn't get that way by accident. They didn't get that way by hiding. They got that way by showing up to the hard parts of life. They let failure toughen their mind. They let challenge stretch their limits. They learned how to fight through discomfort. They learned how to keep going even when everything in them wanted to stop. That's the key. It's not about comfort. It's about growth. You have a choice. You can build a life that protects your weakness, or you can build a life that develops your strength. Let's break this down with a simple example. Two people have the same dream. One wants to start a business. The other wants the same. One person avoids risk. They wait for more confidence, more certainty, or more money. They avoid failure like it's poison. They stay comfortable. They stay small. And year after year, nothing changes. They talk, but they don't move. The second person begins, even when they're scared. They take small risks. They make mistakes. They fail. They adjust. They fail again. They adjust again. And what happens? Their mind gets stronger. Their confidence grows. Their fear shrinks. They become someone who can handle more. They become someone who can lead. They become someone who's ready for bigger wins because they survived smaller losses. One avoided failure and stayed stuck. One faced failure and became unshakable. You have a choice. Who will you be? Let's talk about something most people don't want to admit. Comfort feels good in the moment. Of course it does. It's easy. It's familiar. It asks nothing from you. But comfort steals your future while making you believe everything is okay. Comfort whispers, stay here. Don't push. Don't grow. Don't risk it. Comfort protects your fear instead of your potential. Comfort is the trap that keeps millions of people living the same year over and over again. You don't need more comfort. You need more challenge. You don't need things to be easier. You need to become stronger. It's not about comfort. It's about growth. But growth is not automatic. Growth only happens when you put yourself in situations that test you. Think of working out. If you lift the same weight every day, you stay the same. Your body doesn't change because you're not giving it a reason to change. But when you lift something heavier, when you push your limits, your muscles adapt. They grow. They rebuild stronger than before. Your mind works the same way. Comfort keeps your mental muscles weak. Challenge forces them to grow. Failure is not the enemy. Failure is the weight you lift to become stronger. Failure is the teacher. Failure is the training. Failure is the resistance you need if you want a mind that can endure pressure. That's the key. It's not about comfort. It's about growth. Now let's look at your life. Where have you been choosing comfort over strength? Where have you been avoiding situations that could build you? Where have you been hiding because you don't want to feel discomfort? Avoiding hard conversations keeps you fragile. Avoiding new experiences keeps you fragile. Avoiding risks keeps you fragile. Avoiding responsibility keeps you fragile. Every time you choose comfort, you weaken the part of yourself that needs to grow. But here's the good news. Strength is built the moment you choose differently. Strength begins the moment you say, I'm willing to face this. Strength starts the moment you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start acting now. You have a choice. Every minute of your life, you have a choice. So how do you build strength in the real world, starting today? Here's the process. Step 1. Do something uncomfortable every day. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be a difficult phone call. It can be a task you've been avoiding. It can be starting a project without knowing the full plan. It can be speaking up when you usually stay silent. The size doesn't matter. The discipline matters. Step 2. Expect mistakes. Expect setbacks. Expect things to go wrong. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're training. Stop expecting the path to be smooth. Expect friction. Expect pressure. Expect resistance. That's strength training for your mind. Step 3. Reflect after each challenge. Ask yourself, what did I learn? What can I do better next time? How did this make me stronger? When you treat every challenge as training, failure loses its power over you. And here's the final truth you must absorb. If you always choose comfort, life will eventually become uncomfortable. But if you choose growth now, life becomes easier later. Strength today creates freedom tomorrow. Comfort today creates weakness tomorrow. You have a choice. And the person you become depends entirely on what you choose. Comfort builds fragility. Failure builds strength. You don't need comfort. You need to grow. You don't need permission. You need discipline. It's not about comfort. It's about growth. You've learned what comfort steals from you. Now it's time to understand what your mind can create when you start rewriting the story you tell yourself. Chapter 3. Every skill you want requires failing first. Every skill you want in life begins with the same first step, failing. Not success. Not confidence. Not perfection. Failure. That's the key. Failure is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. Failure is proof that you're learning. Failure is the doorway to skill. And you have a choice every time you face that doorway. Step through it and grow, or walk away and stay exactly where you are. Most people walk away. Not because they lack talent. not because they lack potential. They walk away because they expect to be good immediately. They expect the first attempt to look clean. They expect the first try to feel natural. They expect perfection before practice. And when they don't get instant success, they quit. They say, "I'm not good at this." They say, "Maybe this isn't for me." They give up before they ever give themselves a chance to improve. But every person you admire today, every athlete, every artist, every leader, every entrepreneur, started with failure. They failed more times than you've even tried. They learned through mistakes. They grew through repetition. They sharpened their skills by facing the things they were terrible at. They accepted the truth that you must accept right now. You don't need perfection. You need practice. Look at athletes. The ones who dominate today were missing shots for years. They dropped balls. They fell. They missed targets again and again. They didn't start strong. They started clumsy. They started uncertain. They started at the bottom. But they kept showing up. They repeated the same motion thousands of times. They let their failures guide them. They learned to trust the process. They learned to trust the work more than the result. You have a choice. You can do the same. Look at writers. The ones who publish bestsellers today once wrote terrible first drafts. Pages filled with messy ideas. Weak sentences. Unclear thoughts. They didn't start polished. They didn't start brilliant. They started by putting words on a page and accepting that the first version would be bad. But they kept going. They rewrote. They edited. They improved. They allowed failure to shape their voice. They grew because they were willing to write badly before they could write well. That's the key. You don't need perfection. You need practice. Look at entrepreneurs. The ones who succeed today lost money, made wrong decisions, invested in the wrong ideas, trusted the wrong people, and stumbled through the early years. They didn't get it right the first time. They didn't avoid mistakes. They embraced them. They learned from each loss. They adjusted. They figured out what worked by first discovering what didn't. Failure wasn't the end. Failure was information. This is the truth most people refuse to accept. You cannot develop any skill without failing first. There is no path to mastery that avoids mistakes. There is no shortcut around the early struggle. There is no magic moment where everything feels easy from the start. Skill is built through the friction of doing something poorly and slowly doing it better. Think about a toddler learning to walk. They fall. They fall again. They fall hundreds of times. Not once do they say, "Walking is not for me." Not once do they say, "I'm embarrassed." They just keep going. Because instinctively, they understand something adults forget. Failing is part of learning. Failing is normal. Failing is expected. You have a choice. You can relearn that truth. Right now there is a skill you want to build. Maybe a career skill, a personal skill, a creative skill, a physical skill. And deep down, you know it will improve your life. But you're holding back because you don't want to be seen failing. You don't want to feel slow. You don't want to feel behind. But here is the reality. You cannot skip the messy beginning. And you do not need anyone's permission to begin. You only need discipline. It's not about talent. It's about effort. It's not about perfection. It's about practice. It's not about being good. It's about being willing to be bad until you get good. That's the key. So let's break down the learning process in a simple way. Step 1. Repetition. You repeat the action many times. Even when it feels awkward. Even when it feels uncomfortable. Even when it feels embarrassing. Repetition builds familiarity. Familiarity builds skill. You cannot sharpen a skill you avoid. You must show up often. Step 2. Mistakes. You will get things wrong. You will slip. You will fail. That's not proof of your limits. That's proof you're moving. Every mistake is information. Every mistake exposes what needs improvement. Mistakes are guideposts, not warnings to quit. You have a choice. Complain about mistakes or learn from them. Step 3. Refinement. You adjust. You improve. You correct. You try again with more awareness. Improvement happens through small changes repeated over time. This is the part most people miss. They want huge leaps. But skill is built in tiny steps. Tiny adjustments. Tiny upgrades. Repeated again and again. This is the cycle of skill. Repetition, mistakes, refinement, growth. Then repeat. You don't need perfection. You need practice. But you won't put in the practice unless you remove the fear. Not the fear of failure, the fear of being seen failing. That's the fear that destroys potential. The fear of judgment. The fear of looking weak. The fear of starting small. You must let that fear die. Because it does nothing for you. It protects nothing. It builds nothing. The people who laugh at your beginning will never reach your ending. They are not your concern. You don't need their permission. Every time you try, you grow a little stronger. Every time you repeat, you grow a little better. Every time you fail, you grow a little wiser. That's the key. The only real failure is refusing to practice. So here's your challenge. Decide which skill you want to build. Pick one. Then commit to practice it badly for as long as it takes to get good. Commit to showing up even on days when the results look terrible. Commit to failing forward. Commit to learning through action, not through waiting. You have a choice. Stay the same or grow on purpose. Remember this every day. You don't need perfection. You need practice. You've learned why every skill demands failure. Now it's time to understand how fear shapes the story you tell yourself, and how to rewrite it for power instead of weakness. Chapter 4. The people who fear failure fear judgment, not the process. Most people are not afraid of failure. Not really. They are afraid of judgment. They are afraid of being watched. They are afraid of looking weak, slow, or unprepared. They fear the eyes around them more than the work in front of them. That's the key. What stops them is not the process. What stops them is the fear of someone else's opinion. You have a choice. You can live your life trying to impress people who don't care about your growth, or you can live your life building the skills you actually want. You cannot do both. Think about how often you silence yourself. How often you keep an idea to yourself. How often you stay quiet in rooms where you know the answer. You don't stay silent because you lack intelligence. You stay silent because you fear someone rolling their eyes. You fear being judged. You fear a small moment of embarrassment. You fear the wrong thing. Look at how often people avoid trying something new. They don't avoid it because they hate learning. They avoid it because they think someone will laugh at their early attempts. Someone will judge their first steps. Someone will comment on how they look at the beginning. And because of those imaginary reactions, they stay stuck. They give up their future for the comfort of the present. They throw away opportunity for the approval of strangers. You have a choice. You can keep shrinking yourself, or you can outgrow the fear that keeps you frozen. Think of the person who wants to apply for a better job but never does. They don't fear the interview. They fear being told no. They fear people knowing they tried and didn't get it. They fear the idea of not being chosen. But here's the truth. Not applying is the real failure. Not trying is the only guaranteed loss. Their future is small because their fear is big. Or think about someone who wants to start a business, write a book, post their art, share their voice. They feel the spark. They feel the desire. But they hold back. They imagine people laughing. They imagine people criticizing. They imagine people calling them cringe. So they stay quiet. They keep their talent hidden. They deny themselves progress just to avoid the slight chance of embarrassment. That is how most people live. Always looking around. Always checking who might be watching. Always shrinking to fit in. But here is the truth they never learn. Their opinion is not your prison. Say that to yourself. Their opinion is not your prison. It only becomes a prison when you accept it as truth. This chapter is simple. You must break free from the fear of judgment. Because judgment will always exist. People will always talk. People will always criticize. People will always misunderstand you. You cannot stop that. But you can decide how much power you give it. And that's the key. You have a choice. Let's break this down. Why do people judge you? Most of the time, it has nothing to do with you. People judge because they are insecure. They judge because your effort exposes their lack of effort. They judge because your courage reminds them of their fear. They judge because tearing someone down is easier than improving themselves. That's the key. Their judgment says more about their limits than your potential. Why does their opinion hurt you? Because you want acceptance. You want support. You want to belong. That's human. But you must understand something. The cost of building a new life is letting go of the approval that keeps you in the old one. You cannot grow and stay comfortable. You cannot rise and stay liked by everyone. You cannot win and still be the person who fears being seen. You have a choice. You can protect your ego or protect your future. Pick one. Now let's get practical. If you want to stop fearing judgment, you must build new habits. Fear is loud, but discipline is louder. It's not about weakness, it's about discipline. Habit 1. Do one thing publicly that makes you uncomfortable. Speak up in a meeting. Share an idea. Ask a question. Post your work. Apply for the opportunity. Send the message. Take the step. It doesn't need to be perfect. It only needs to be done. Each time you act in spite of fear, the fear shrinks. Each time you avoid action, the fear grows. You have a choice. Habit 2. Start before you feel ready. Waiting to feel confident is a trap. Confidence comes from evidence. Evidence comes from action. Action comes from choice. You won't feel ready. That's normal. Start anyway. The people who win in life begin with shaky hands and uncertain steps. That's the key. Habit 3. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand your goals. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need to justify your dreams. When you stop explaining, you stop shrinking. When you stop shrinking, you start growing. Habit 4. Keep your focus on the process, not the audience. When you look around, you slow down. When you look ahead, you move forward. Focus on the reps. Focus on the work. Focus on the action. Let the results come later. You are not here to perform for anyone. You are here to build yourself. Habit 5. Accept that judgment is part of progress. If no one ever judges you, it means you are not doing anything bold. You are not taking risks. You are not standing out. You are living small. And living small is the real failure. You have a choice. Here's the truth that will free you. People are not thinking about you as much as you imagine. They're thinking about themselves. They're busy worrying about their own image, their own mistakes, their own insecurities. You are trapped by opinions that most people forget within minutes. You are locked behind a wall that isn't even real. But you can walk out. At any moment. You can decide that your growth matters more than their comments. You can decide that your future matters more than their judgment. You can decide that you are done living a life built around fear. Because that's the key, their opinion is not your prison. Your fear is. And fear is something you can break with action. As you move forward in this audiobook, you're learning how to take back control of your reactions, your choices, and your emotional energy. You're learning how to break free from the things that once held you still. You've learned how judgment traps you. Now it's time to reclaim something far more powerful, your focus. Chapter 5. Failure shows you who you are. Failure does something that comfort never will. It tells the truth. It strips away the story you tell yourself and shows you the real picture. Not the polished version. Not the version you pretend to be. The real one. Most people avoid failure because they are afraid of what it will reveal. They don't want to face their weak points. They don't want to face their excuses. They don't want to face how undisciplined they really are. So they hide. They distract themselves. They stay busy instead of being honest. But here's the truth. Failure is feedback, not identity. Say it again so it sinks in. Failure is feedback, not identity. It doesn't tell you who you are forever. It tells you who you are right now. And that is the only place you can grow from. You have a choice. You can run from that truth. Or you can face it and build strength from it. That's the key. Think about the last time you failed at something important. Maybe you tried a business idea and it fell apart. Maybe you attempted a fitness goal and quit after a week. Maybe you tried to fix a habit and slipped back into old patterns. The failure wasn't the real problem. The reaction was. Did you shut down? Did you blame others? Did you tell yourself the effort just wasn't worth it? Or did you look at the mess, take a breath, and ask the only question that matters? What is this showing me? Because failure always shows you something. If you quit too fast, it shows you your patience is weak. If you panic when things go wrong, it shows you your emotional control is shaky. If you keep repeating the same mistake, it shows you your discipline is thin. This isn't punishment. It's information. And information is power, if you use it. You don't need their permission to grow. You don't need their approval to start again. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need honesty. Honesty with yourself. Here is the lesson most people never learn. You discover your true habits only under pressure. Anyone can feel confident when everything works. Anyone can talk strong when nothing is at risk. Anyone can pretend to be disciplined when there is no challenge. But when failure hits, the mask drops. You see the truth. You feel the truth. And if you are brave enough, you can build from that truth. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two people start going to the gym. The first one feels motivated for 3 days, then quits because the results are slow. The second one also struggles, also gets tired, also feels discouraged, but keeps showing up. What separated them? Not talent. Not luck. Not ability. Just one thing: discipline. Failure exposed the first person's lack of consistency. Failure revealed the second person's determination. Remember this. It's not about the setback. It's about the response. That's the key. Now think about your own life. Where have you failed recently? Don't hide from it. Bring it into the light. Maybe work didn't go the way you wanted. Maybe your relationship fell apart. Maybe your side project never left the ground. Maybe you've been promising yourself a change that never came. Whatever it is, stop treating it like a personal flaw. Start treating it like feedback. If you failed because you were lazy, good, now you know the truth. If you failed because you avoided responsibility, good, now you know what to fix. If you failed because you feared judgment, good, now you know what's holding you back. Failure shows you where you must train, where you must tighten your discipline, where you must rebuild from the inside out. And here's the part most people forget. You have a choice. You can use failure as a mirror to improve, or you can use it as a wall to hide behind. Choose the mirror, not the wall. Let's break this down into something you can use right away. 1. Name the failure. Say it clearly. No excuses. No softening. If you missed a deadline, say it. If you broke a promise to yourself, admit it. If you quit when things got difficult, acknowledge it. Honesty is the first step. 2. Identify what it reveals. Does it show poor habits? Does it show emotional reactions you haven't trained? Does it show comfort ruling your life? Be specific. Be direct. This is where growth begins. 3. Create a response plan. Not a dream. Not a fantasy. A plan. One action you will take today, not someday. Remember, it's not about the flaw. It's about the discipline. Your flaw is not your limit. Your flaw is your starting point. 4. Repeat the cycle. Fail again. Learn again. Adjust again. Improve again. That's how every strong person is built. Every skill, every achievement, every transformation, built through failure, clarity, discipline, repetition. Failure is the doorway, not the dead end. Never forget this. You are not defined by the worst thing you did. You are defined by what you do next. You have a choice. You can stay stuck in the story of your failure, or you can use it to build the person you claim you want to be. Failure forces you to see your truth. And when you see your truth, you gain the power to change it. That's the gift. That's the opportunity. That's the key. Now take a moment. Breathe. Let the lesson settle. You are not broken. You are being called to build stronger. You master the courage to face failure. Now it's time to master the discipline to handle success. Chapter 6. Success has a price, and failure is the currency. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants the reward. Everyone wants the breakthrough, the respect, the confidence, the freedom. But very few want to pay for it. Success isn't free. Success demands a price. And failure is the currency. Most people don't understand this. They think success is luck. They think success is talent. They think success comes from waiting for the perfect moment. But the truth is simple. Success is earned by failing, learning, adjusting, and trying again. You have a choice. You can chase the fantasy of easy success, or you can face the truth and pay what it costs. That's the key. Let's make one thing clear. Dreamers want the result. Doers pay the price. Dreamers love the idea of success. Doers love the process. Dreamers talk. Doers act. Dreamers wait. Doers fail forward. And here's the part many don't want to hear. You don't need their permission. You need commitment. Commitment to repeat the small steps. Commitment to face the setbacks. Commitment to fail and keep going. Think of the people you admire, the ones who built something real. Athletes, business owners, creators, leaders. Every one of them paid with failure. Again and again. They showed up when they were tired. They pushed through when no one believed in them. They failed in front of others. They failed when the pressure was high. They failed when it hurt. But they kept moving. That's the difference. That's the key. Let me give you a few real examples. A writer publishes a best-selling book, but before that, they wrote drafts nobody read. They sent out manuscripts that were rejected again and again. Failure was the price. And they paid it. An athlete becomes a champion, but before that, they missed thousands of shots in practice. They lost games. They made mistakes in front of crowds. Failure was the price. And they paid it. An entrepreneur builds a successful company, but before that, they made bad decisions. They invested money that disappeared. They built things that didn't work. Failure was the price. And they paid it. These people weren't special. They weren't chosen. They weren't lucky. They were committed. You don't need their permission. You don't need approval. You don't need a perfect track record. You need commitment. Because success is simple, not easy. And the price is always the same. You must fail, learn, and move forward. Now here's the part where most people sabotage themselves. They want success, but they also want comfort. They want progress, but they fear looking foolish. They want results, but they refuse the discomfort of losing. They want the outcome without the payment. But it doesn't work like that. Success forces you to sacrifice comfort. Success forces you to push through embarrassment. Success forces you to accept failure as part of the deal. You have a choice. You can stay comfortable and stay stuck. Or you can pay the price and grow. That's the key. Let's break this down so you can apply it. 1. Accept that failure is part of the trade. You will fail. You will stumble. You will be wrong. You will face doubt. None of this means you're not meant for success. It means you're in the process. Most people quit the moment they fail once. They think it's a sign. They think they're not good enough. They think the goal isn't for them. But failure is not a stop sign. Failure is the receipt. It proves you're paying the price. 2. Decide what you're willing to sacrifice. Are you willing to lose comfort? Are you willing to look inexperienced? Are you willing to learn slowly? Are you willing to try again after it hurts? Because commitment means choosing the hard path on purpose. Remember, it's not about embarrassment. It's about discipline. It's not about speed. It's about consistency. It's not about perfection. It's about commitment. That's the key. 3. Set a standard, not a wish. A wish says, I hope this works. A standard says, I'll keep going until it works. A wish collapses under pressure. A standard survives failure. If you want success, you need a standard. A way of living. A decision that doesn't change based on mood, fear, or difficulty. Say it clearly. I will pay the price. I will accept failure. I will keep going. You don't need their permission. You don't need the perfect start. You just need commitment. 4. Learn the right lesson from every setback. When something fails, don't collapse. Ask, what is this teaching me? What skill is this building? What weakness did this expose? Every failure gives you something. A lesson. A correction. A new direction. A stronger mindset. But only if you look. Remember, Failure is feedback, not identity. Use it. 5. Track the price you've paid. Look back at your last month. Your last year. What have you invested? What effort have you put in? What failures have you survived? Success grows from the ground you've already walked through, even the messy parts. You're building something real. Something earned. Something solid. And don't forget this truth. The people who laugh now will watch later. The people who doubt now will ask questions later. The people who ignore you now will respect you later. You don't need their permission. You need commitment. Everything you want has a price. And you're strong enough to pay it. You have a choice. You can live as a dreamer, wanting everything, doing nothing. Or you can live as a doer, failing often, learning fast, rising stronger. Doers pay the price. Doers get the result. Doers build the life they want. Success isn't waiting for you. Success is testing you. Asking one question. Will you pay the price? And if you answer yes, your life changes. You accepted failure. You accepted growth. Now it's time to accept the next challenge. Chapter 7. Fail fast. Fail forward. Fail with purpose. Speed matters. Momentum matters. Action matters. Most people move too slowly. Not because the goal is hard. Not because the path is unclear. But because they are waiting for perfect conditions that will never arrive. You have a choice. You can wait for the right moment, or you can move now. And moving now is always the winning choice. That's the key. Fail fast. Fail forward. Fail with purpose. Those three things separate the people who grow quickly from the people who stay stuck for years. Some people spend months planning. They spend years thinking. They prepare, overthink, and hesitate. They convince themselves they're being careful, but what they're really doing is hiding from action. And they wonder why nothing in their life changes. Here's the truth. Small actions change your life faster than perfect plans. Small mistakes teach you more than perfect theories. Small experiments build confidence quicker than long fantasies. Move. Try. Adjust. Repeat. That's the formula. That's the key. When you move fast, you learn fast. When you make quick mistakes, you get quick lessons. When you try something small, you lower the risk but raise the momentum. Think of a scientist. A scientist doesn't sit for 10 years waiting for a guaranteed result. They run small experiments. They test something. If it fails, they adjust. If it works, they improve it. Either way, action leads them forward. You can do the same in your life. In your career. In your health. In your relationships. In your goals. But you must be willing to try. You must be willing to fail. And you must be willing to fail with purpose. Most people fear fast mistakes because they think mistakes define them. But mistakes don't define you, they refine you. They sharpen you. They guide you. They show you what works and what doesn't. Remember, it's not about avoiding mistakes. It's about building discipline. Discipline to take action. Discipline to test new moves. Discipline to correct quickly when something goes wrong. You don't need their permission to move. You don't need anyone to approve your pace. You need commitment. You need courage. You need momentum. Let's break this into simple steps you can use immediately. 1. Make your moves smaller so you can make them faster. Big ideas paralyze you. Huge plans overwhelm you. But small steps? You can take those today. Want to start a business? Test a tiny product first. Want to get healthy? Start with a 10-minute walk. Want to learn a skill? Practice for 15 minutes a day. Want to build confidence? Speak up once in every meeting. Small steps lower the pressure. Small steps reduce fear. Small steps let you fail quickly and safely. Move. Try. Adjust. Repeat. That's the key. 2. Shorten the distance between idea and action. Right now, you wait too long. You get an idea, but you hesitate. You think about how people might react. You think about whether you're ready. You think about the risks. You think about the outcomes. By the time you finish thinking, the moment is gone. You have a choice. You can act before you feel ready, or you can stay stuck while waiting for perfect confidence. Confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence comes from action, from doing, from trying, from failing forward. Make this your rule. When I get an idea, I take one action in the next 10 minutes. It can be small. It can be simple. But it must be real. Move. Try. Adjust. Repeat. 3. Separate the failure from your identity. When a move fails, people take it personally. They think they are the failure. They think it proves they're not good enough. They think it confirms their doubts. But a failed action doesn't mean a failed person. A bad attempt doesn't mean a bad future. A wrong step doesn't mean the journey is wrong. Failure is data. Failure is information. Failure is a message. And if you listen to it without emotion, it guides you to the right path. It's not about pride. It's about discipline. That's the key. 4. Build the habit of quick correction. When something goes wrong, don't freeze. Don't collapse. Don't spend days beating yourself up. Correct fast. If a strategy fails, shift the strategy. If a method fails, try a new one. If the timing fails, adjust the timing. If the skill is weak, train the skill. The faster you correct, the faster you grow. Doers don't sit in their mistakes. They learn, pivot, and move again. Move. Try. Adjust. Repeat. 5. Use failure as a compass. If something breaks quickly, that's not a sign to quit. It's a sign that you're close to a stronger approach. If something you tried doesn't work, don't throw the whole goal away. Ask a better question. What did this failure teach me about my next step? That question will save you years. Because the truth is, failure often gives you clearer direction than success does. Success feels good, but it doesn't always teach. Failure always teaches. You have a choice. Use it to grow. 6. Test more often than others. Most people try once. They fail once. They quit. That's why their life doesn't change. But if you test 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, you will outrun everyone who only tried once. Your life expands in proportion to the number of experiments you're willing to make. Test ideas. Test strategies. Test habits. Test routines. Every test gives you results. Every result moves you forward. Move. Try. Adjust. Repeat. You grow faster when you fail faster. Slow failure keeps you trapped in fear. Fast failure sets you free. Every quick mistake builds a quick correction. Every quick correction builds a stronger version of you. Every stronger version of you brings you closer to success. You don't need their permission to speed up your life. You don't need applause to begin. You need discipline. You need courage. You need movement. That's the key. Fail fast. Fail forward. Fail with purpose. That's how you grow. That's how you build. That's how you transform. You've learned to use speed as a weapon. Now it's time to learn another truth. The people around you shape how fast and how far you grow. Chapter 8. Your ego is your biggest obstacle. Your biggest enemy doesn't live outside you. It isn't the economy. It isn't your family. It isn't your past. It's your ego. The quiet voice that keeps telling you that you're already good enough. The voice that hates correction. The voice that wants praise instead of progress. That voice slows you down more than failure ever will. And you have a choice. Keep protecting your ego, or start building your discipline. That's the key. Your ego wants to feel safe. Discipline wants to grow. Those two forces fight every day. And most people let ego win. They refuse feedback. They pretend they already know how things work. They quit early because they can't stand looking inexperienced. They blame others because admitting fault feels painful. Ego will always choose comfort. But comfort kills growth. It keeps you stuck. And you don't need their permission to break free from it. You need honesty. And honesty requires discipline. Think about the last time someone corrected you. Did you listen? Or did you defend yourself? Did you learn? Or did you argue? Most people argue. Not because they're right, but because their ego can't survive being wrong. That's the trap. It feels good to protect your pride in the moment, but it costs you everything in the long run. You have a choice. You can stay proud, or you can become better. You cannot be both. Your ego also stops you from starting. It whispers, "What if you look foolish? What if people laugh? What if you fail in public?" That fear of embarrassment is pure ego. It's not about fear. It's about discipline. Discipline moves even when the result is uncertain. Discipline starts even when the first steps look messy. Ego needs approval. Discipline needs action. Look at anyone who reached excellence in any field. They all share the same habit. They fail in front of others. They take risks. They start before they feel ready. They get corrected, adjusted, and pushed. They accept being beginners. That's why they grow. They don't hide behind ego. They walk straight into discomfort. You have that same choice every day. Protect yourself or improve yourself. Let's break down the 3 main ways ego blocks your progress. 1. Ego refuses feedback. Feedback is fuel. It's the fastest way to improve. Yet many people reject it because it bruises their pride. Someone tells them their work needs changes, and instead of listening, they defend themselves. Someone gives a better idea, and instead of learning, they feel threatened. That mindset keeps them stuck at the same level for years. If you want real progress, you must do the opposite. Listen, learn, adjust. That's discipline. And discipline is the key. 2. Ego quits early. People quit not because the task is impossible, but because the early stages make them look inexperienced. Think about the gym. Everyone wants to be fit, but few want to look weak on day 1. Think about business. Everyone wants success, but few want to face the awkward first attempts. Ego says, "If I can't look good doing it, I won't do it at all." Discipline says, "I'll look bad today so I can look strong later." You have to choose. Pride or progress. 3. Ego blames others. Blame is the ego's favorite shield. The ego hates responsibility. It hates admitting that the outcome is in your hands. So it points fingers. It says, "They held me back. They didn't support me. They don't understand me." Responsibility feels heavy, yes. But responsibility also gives you power. When you own the problem, you can own the solution. That's discipline. And that's the path forward. Now let's talk about what to do. Because you need practical steps. You need real actions to take today, not someday. So here are the 4 habits that weaken ego and strengthen discipline. Habit 1. Ask for honest feedback. Not polite feedback. Not gentle praise. Real, direct, unfiltered truth. Ask someone you trust, "What am I doing wrong?" Then listen. Don't defend yourself. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just listen. Write it down. Apply it. That simple act can change your entire trajectory. That's discipline in action. Habit 2. Start before you feel ready. Your ego waits for the perfect moment. It waits for perfect conditions. It waits until you can guarantee success. But that moment never comes. Discipline moves now. Discipline acts today. So practice taking small, imperfect steps. Launch the idea. Try the skill. Begin the project. Let yourself be a beginner. Let yourself make mistakes. That's how you grow. Habit 3. Take responsibility for everything you control. Every result you get in life has your fingerprints on it. When something goes wrong, ask, "What can I adjust next time?" Not "Who can I blame?" That shift in thinking is powerful. It puts you back in the driver's seat. And when you're in control, you can improve. That's the mindset that builds real strength. Habit 4. Practice humility daily. Humility is not weakness. Humility is awareness. It's the ability to see yourself clearly. It's the courage to admit, "I can do better." Humility opens the door to learning. Ego shuts it. So every day, ask yourself one simple question: where am I holding myself back? Be honest. Then change it. That's discipline. And discipline builds freedom. Your ego wants applause. But applause won't build your future. Discipline will. Discipline makes you stronger. Discipline makes you wiser. Discipline makes you consistent. It doesn't matter if you've failed. It doesn't matter if you've been embarrassed. It doesn't matter if people doubted you. You don't need their permission to rise again. You just need discipline. Remember this, your ego wants to protect the person you are today. But discipline wants to build the person you can become. You have to decide which voice you listen to. Every day. Every choice. Every action. It's not about ego. It's about discipline. That's the key. You've now taken a hard look at the enemy inside you. The enemy that slows you down. The enemy that keeps you small. The enemy that hides behind pride. And now you understand something important. When you defeat your ego, you free your potential. You've faced the truth. Now it's time to face the next challenge. You broke the grip of ego. Now, let's talk about the power that shapes your entire direction. Chapter 9. The breakthrough only comes after the breakdown. There is a moment in every journey when everything feels heavy. When your effort seems wasted. When you ask yourself why you're still trying. That moment is not the end. It's the edge. It's the final barrier before the breakthrough. Most people quit right there. Not because they lack talent, but because they don't understand this simple truth. The breakdown comes right before the turn. And you have a choice. Stop, or take one more step. That's the key. You've seen this pattern in your own life. You try. You push. You make progress. Then suddenly, the challenges stack up. The effort feels pointless. Nothing seems to change. Your energy drops. Your hope fades. Your ego whispers, "This is a sign to quit." But it's not a sign. It's a test. This is the moment that separates dreamers from doers. You don't need their permission to keep going. You need discipline. Breakdowns are not failures. They are pressure points. They squeeze out your excuses. They force you to face who you really are. They expose your patience, your grit, your belief. When everything inside you wants to stop, discipline keeps you moving. That's why the breakthrough only arrives after the breakdown. Because only the disciplined can reach it. Let's talk about the psychology behind this. When you start a goal, you're excited. You're motivated. You feel strong. But as you push forward, the work gets harder. Old habits resist you. Fear tries to pull you back. Progress slows down. And right when your patience is at its lowest, the real growth begins. But because you don't see results yet, your mind convinces you that nothing is working. Most people quit at the exact moment they needed to keep going. You have a choice. Listen to your frustration, or listen to your discipline. Think of any major breakthrough. It almost always comes one step after everything seems finished. A runner wins a race after nearly collapsing. A business finally takes off after years of losses. A student passes after failing the exam twice. A marriage heals after the hardest conversation. Breakthroughs don't come wrapped in comfort. They come wrapped in struggle. Let's look at a simple example. Picture someone trying to learn a new skill, coding, drawing, speaking, anything. At first, progress is quick. They learn the basics. They feel proud. Then they hit the wall. The part where improvement slows down. The part where mistakes multiply. This is the breakdown. Most people quit here because they think their struggle means they're not good enough. But the truth is the opposite. That struggle is the doorway. That frustration is the path. The breakthrough sits on the other side of that wall. One more session. One more day. One more attempt. But ego says, if it feels this hard, it's not meant to be. Discipline says, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. You must decide which voice wins. Now let's talk about real-world action. You need clear steps for pushing through the breakdown instead of collapsing under it. Because persistence isn't magic. It's method. Step 1. Expect the breakdown. Don't be shocked by the hard moments. Don't act surprised when the path gets rough. Expect it. When you expect struggle, it loses its power. When you expect resistance, you meet it with strength instead of fear. Tell yourself, this is part of the process. Because it is. The breakdown is not proof that you're failing. It's proof that you're growing. Step 2. Shorten your focus. When you're tired, your mind exaggerates the size of the challenge. It makes everything look impossible. So zoom in. Don't think about the whole journey. Think about the next step, the next hour, the next action. One step at a time breaks mountains into pebbles. You have a choice: drown in the big picture or conquer the small one. Step 3. Remove the emotional filter. Your feelings lie to you during the breakdown. They tell you you're done. They tell you you're out of strength. They tell you the dream is too far away. But feelings are not facts. Action is fact. Discipline is fact. So separate emotion from effort. You can feel frustrated and still keep going. You can feel tired and still push. You can feel defeated and still rise. That's discipline. Step 4. Look for the small wins. Breakthroughs don't arrive all at once. They build. And during the breakdown, those small wins matter more than ever. Look for them intentionally. A little progress. A better habit. A clearer mind. A tiny improvement. These are signs that the breakthrough is forming. Don't ignore them. Celebrate them. They show you that the turn is closer than you think. Step 5. Remind yourself why you started. When pain gets loud, purpose gets quiet. You forget your reason. You forget your mission. So bring it back. Say it out loud. Write it down. Speak it with conviction. Your why is fuel. Use it. It will carry you through moments that motivation cannot. Now let's address the deeper truth. The breakdown is where your identity shifts. It breaks the old version of you, the lazy version, the fearful version, the unsure version. It strips away your excuses. It clears space for a stronger, more disciplined you to appear. That's why it hurts. Growth always hurts. But pain doesn't mean stop. Pain means pay attention. Pain means you are in the right place. You have a choice. Quit and stay who you are, or keep going and become who you're meant to be. Most people never reach their breakthrough because they underestimate how close it is. They stop one day too early. One attempt too soon. One push away from the moment that would have changed everything. Don't be that person. Don't let your story end before the turn. Your future self is begging you to take one more step. So hear this clearly. Keep going. Keep pushing. The turn is closer than you think. Even if you can't see it. Even if you don't feel it. Even if everything inside you wants to stop. One more step can change everything. One more push can open the door. One more try can turn the breakdown into the breakthrough. You don't need their permission to rise. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need endless motivation. You need discipline. That's the key. You've faced the breakdown. Now it's time to step into a new chapter of strength. Chapter 10. Master Failure, and You Master Life. There is a turning point in every person's life when they finally stop running from failure. It's the moment they accept it, study it, and use it. That moment changes everything. Because once failure loses its power to scare you, your whole life shifts. Fear fades. Confidence grows. Clear thinking becomes possible. And bold decisions no longer feel dangerous. You have a choice. Keep seeing failure as a threat, or start treating it as fuel. That's the key. Most people live with constant fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being judged. Fear of starting over. Fear of disappointment. But the truth is simple. That fear doesn't come from failure itself. It comes from the refusal to understand failure. It comes from confusing failure with identity. But failure is not identity. Failure is information. Failure is direction. Failure is training. And you don't need their permission to use it. Let's break this down clearly. Life works in a simple cycle. Try, fail, learn, adapt, win. This cycle repeats at every level. In work. In habits. In relationships. In business. In dreams. You already know this is true because every skill you've ever learned followed this pattern. You tried to walk, and you fell. You tried to speak, and you fumbled. You tried to ride a bike, and you crashed. But you kept going. You learned. You adapted. And soon you mastered it. That's how life works. Nothing has changed. Only your mindset changed. You have a choice. Stay afraid of the first step or commit to the full cycle. When you reject failure, you reject the process that leads to mastery. When you avoid failure, you avoid growth. And when you fear failure, you fear life itself. That is why mastering failure is the foundation of every strong, disciplined, confident person you admire. They didn't get lucky. They didn't skip steps. They embraced the cycle. And because they embraced the cycle, they unlocked the courage that most people never feel. When you master failure, you stop worrying about judgment. You stop worrying about mistakes. You stop seeking perfect conditions. You stop waiting for permission. And when all those fears disappear, you become a different kind of person. You become calm under pressure. You think clearly. You take action fast. You recover quickly. You adapt without drama. You make decisions with strength instead of hesitation. That is real power. But let's go deeper. Mastering failure means mastering your emotions. Because failure always hits your pride first. Your ego wants you to look good at all times. Your ego wants people to admire you. Your ego hates mistakes. But ego is the enemy of growth. Ego is the blocker. Ego is the weight that keeps you from moving forward. And you have a choice. Protect your ego or build your discipline. It cannot be both. Remember this. It's not about ego. It's about discipline. Discipline keeps you steady when ego wants you to quit. Discipline keeps you learning when ego wants you to hide. Discipline keeps you improving when ego wants you to blame someone else. That's the key. Now let's talk about what mastering failure looks like in day-to-day behavior. This is where transformation happens. You must change the way you respond to setbacks, because the world won't change for you. But your habits can. 1. When something goes wrong, ask, what is this teaching me? Not why me. Not what's wrong with me. Not who can I blame. You have a choice. And the right question gives you the right direction. Find the lesson. Write it down. Apply it. That simple step puts you ahead of most people. 2. Take fast responsibility. Not guilt. Not shame. Not self-hate. Responsibility. Say, this is my result, so this is my lesson. That statement alone will change your life, because responsibility gives you power. Power to improve. Power to adjust. Power to move. 3. Move quickly after failure. Don't sit in it. Don't drown in it. Don't replay it in your mind for days. Fix what needs fixing and get back into motion. Slow recovery kills dreams. Fast recovery creates winners. 4. Break goals into experiments. Instead of saying, I must get this perfect, say, let me test this. Experiments free you. Experiments remove pressure. Experiments make failure normal. When failure becomes normal, fear disappears. 5. Practice being wrong without falling apart. Try things. Mississippi adjust. Repeat. Say it out loud if needed. Being wrong does not make me weak. Staying the same does. That's discipline. Now let's talk about something most people never understand. Mastering failure builds unstoppable confidence. Not fake confidence. Not loud confidence. Quiet confidence. The kind that comes from knowing you can recover from anything. When you no longer fear the worst outcome, life becomes lighter. Choices become easier. Action becomes natural. You don't freeze. You don't hesitate. You don't overthink. You move. And that movement compounds into success. Think about the people who achieve extraordinary results. They are not lucky. They are not perfect. They are not chosen. They are trained. Trained through failure. Trained through pressure. Trained through setbacks. Trained through trying again when others quit. They built their confidence through repetition, not imagination. You have a choice. Admire them or become like them. Every setback you face right now is a chance to build that same strength. But only if you respond the right way. Only if you stop seeing failure as an attack on who you are. Only if you start seeing it as a step toward who you want to be. Let me repeat the truth clearly. Failure is not who you are. Failure is feedback. Feedback you can use. Feedback you can grow from. Feedback that shapes your future. You don't need their permission to rise again. You don't need their approval to try again. And you definitely don't need perfection. You need discipline. That's the key. So here is the real message of this chapter. When you master failure, you become unstoppable. Because nothing can harm a person who knows how to adapt. Nothing can intimidate a person who knows how to recover. Nothing can stop a person who keeps learning. Master failure, and you master life. Failure is not the end of your journey, it is your journey. Every setback has trained you. Every mistake has shaped you. Every loss has prepared you for your next step. You don't rise in spite of failure. You rise because of it. The people who grow are the people who try, fall, get up, and try again. That is strength. That is courage. That is the real path to success. So stop hiding. Stop delaying. Stop waiting for perfect moments that will never come. Step forward. Take risks. Fail boldly. Fail proudly. Fail with purpose. Because every failure moves you closer to the life you want. And now, here's your challenge. Pick one thing you've been avoiding out of fear, and fail at it on purpose. Try. Mississippi learn. Go again. That's how you change your life. That's how you win. Your next level is waiting for you. Start failing forward.